Crack it open, baby. Let's go. Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Live Before Lock. Thursday night, Falcons, Tampa Bay Bucs. We're here to break it all down. This is a fun one. Really fun because there's actually some question marks in this game, some uncertainty. And that's why we're here. Got you up to the next hour. So happy to have you with us. Greg Ehrenberg joining me as always every Thursday night. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I like this one too for multiple reasons. I think it's fun from a DFS perspective. I think there's some fun value guys to roster and try to figure out what to do with certain situations that we're going to be talking about, like what happens with the backfield for Tampa Bay, what happens to the wide receiving core with McMillan out. But then on top of that as well, it's actually a good game between two teams that are contending for playoff spots within the same division. So lots of angles to like this one from.
Yeah, man. Yeah, short rest. Thursday night divisional matchups. Good stuff. Chris Williams with the super chat. Chris, I appreciate you just doing my job for me, and I'm not hating you. It's that time again. You know what's coming. Atone, folks. Hit that thumbs up. Bring yourself some good karma. That's right. Take a single second. Atone for your sins this lovely evening. It shall bring you good luck, or at least that's how we're going to play it. Let's see what we can do here. Maybe hit 500 along the way. Usually we get like 2,000 plus watching. So that's a 25% likes to viewer ratio, Greg. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but here's what I'm more concerned about. If you're new to the channel or you've been lurking for some time and forgot to hit that subscribe, Jordan, what's our number? How far from 100K? Do it just to shut me up. That's the way I see it. Do it just so I shut the fuck up and stop talking about getting us to 100K. There it is, right. Greg. 197.
We need 197 more.
Plus, there's a good channel. You like DFS? I mean, it's a good channel. Thanks, Chris Williams, for gifting those memberships as well. And as always, anything else I missed? No, I think we're good to go. I had to take my dog to the vet today. It was $350.
Oh my God.
And that's just preliminary.
Is that like a routine before you get into, is that a routine? I've never like owned an animal before, other than like a cat I had when I was a kid, but I don't remember. Is that like the cost of a routine visit?
No, they had to amputate her arm.
Really?
So, I mean, I guess all things considered, that's inexpensive.
Why'd they have to do that?
I'm kidding.
So there's a part I didn't feel that was real because it seemed extreme, but I also would have been such an asshole if I was like, if I called
I set you up because you have no good response to that. If you said no, they didn't, I'd be like, that's really insensitive, man. No, I found a lump like in here and she's been limping. I think she has arthritis. She's 8. I think she has arthritis when she gets up, like her front left paw hurts, but then once she walks around, she's okay. So I wanted to get her checked out, see if I can get like anti-inflammatories or something. And then they can do kind of like an instant biopsy on the lump, and it appears to be just like a benign something, but they had to do blood work, right? And they got to do all this stuff. So like that, yeah, it's expensive, and that's assuming nothing else is wrong. But we pray. She's a good girl. Anyway, happy to have you guys here.
Vets are impressive, by the way. Like human doctors only do humans. Vets, they have to do like dogs, horses, parrots. Vets are way more impressive than human doctors.
In a sense, it kind of is. Also, the animals can't tell them where it hurts. Like they can't, you know what I mean? They can't communicate. Michael said, hope it's not cancer. Me too, brother. Thank you. Me too. All right. Let's do it.
G said you should have kept the snake for a pet. That's true. And snakes, you don't have to worry about the legs either.
It's a good point. Although some would say they used to have legs.
That is true. They have like those vestiges or whatever that were legs apparently hundreds of years ago.
Something like, I would think it's more than hundreds of years ago, probably like hundreds of thousands of years ago.
How long ago did snakes have legs?
Like the evolutionary process, if that took place within the last couple hundred years, that'd be pretty wild. But
oh yeah, 170 million years ago. All right.
Okay, so you were only 169,900,000 years off.
I was really 170 million years off.
All right, let's talk some football. Glad you guys could join us. So all right, Here's actually where I want to start. And there's a lot of places we can go here as well, because you've got Kirk Cousins at a pretty discounted price point for a quarterback that's not named, like Skylar Thompson, right? Tim Boyle and those type of guys. Cause we see that sometimes, but no joke. Correct me if I'm wrong. Usually, even when you have these really bad backup quarterbacks on a showdown slate, they're like the price of Kirk Cousins today.
Yeah, this is the cheapest I can remember competent starting quarterbacks being the entire year. One thing that for me, I've noticed from just looking at showdown slate results this year, as well as just running lineups through the Sims, is I do love the quarterbacks in this game, but it's kind of hard to build a game script where non-rushing quarterbacks end up being in the optimal lineup as the captain. Like, it is going to happen from time to time if they just throw for a bunch of yards, or maybe it's like a lower scoring game. That's just where the fantasy points are had. But in general, the reason it's kind of hard for quarterbacks that are not runners of the football to score big fantasy games and land in the winning lineup as the captain is because presumably if a quarterback has a big game, there's a pretty good chance that their number one wide receiver, one of their other pass catchers, had an even bigger game than that because of the way the PPR bonus works. So like Baker Mayfield and Kirk Cousins, they're two of my most rostered players on the slate, Lofty, but I don't love them in the multiplier spot.
That's exactly what it comes down to. I'm with you. Matt and I discussed that this morning. By the way, JB Hughes, appreciate you, man. That means a lot. And Obi-Wan, we looked into dog insurance, pet insurance a while ago. Total ripoff, man. At least the ones we were looking at. But yeah, like with Kirk Cousins, I think it's definitely one of these spots where at 8,600 you go, all right, captain, don't love it. But Tampa's still, like, I know Tampa, you can look at some of the numbers and go, all right, well, they're allowing 5 yards per carry on the ground. Granted, Vita Vea missed some time, like a game plus. He's back, but he's only one guy. He's the size of 3, but technically he's only one guy. So you can still kind of run on them better than you used to be able to. But, missing Antoine Winfield too. Kalijah Cansey's another guy that's out. They still have bodies missing in that secondary. You could see Kirk Cousins with a decent passing game here. You know what the problem is? And I think you may have actually touched on it, but his rushing yard totals this year are 0, -1 on a kneel down, -1 and 0. So you just, and coming off the Achilles, you have 0 rushing upside from Kirk Cousins. I mean, 0. It's non-existent unless he does completely morphs into somebody that we haven't seen. There's no rushing upside there. So you're looking for those attachments, right? And then you have the concentrated target share in the offense between Drake London, can't even say Kyle Pitts anymore, Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, and McLeod's cheap. So it just kind of feels like it makes more sense if you're going that route to captain one of those skill players and then play Cousins in the flex with 1 or 2 more skill players in the flex with him.
Yeah, and the other thing to add about Cousins is not only coming off the Achilles, but this isn't like he was a guy who was capable of running the football before this either. Last year, he had 25 rushing yards. The year before that, where he played all 17 games, he had 97 rushing yards. He's never topped 200 rushing yards in his entire career. So, like, the only one thing from a showdown game that, like, generally anything goes, the one thing that would surprise me, that was, like, Kirk Cousins breaking off a big rushing yard game. Like, that seems impossible.
It seems pretty tough, yeah. Like, you're not even getting, like, we don't even need to go further on this, really. But I think when you're talking about some of the skill players in this game on the Atlanta side, there's a lot of different directions you can take. Drake London, for one. And, I'm not really impressed with this secondary from Tampa Bay. Even last week, you look at that. Dallas Goedert dropped what would have been a 30, 40-yard reception early in that game before it got out of control. But then Philly needs to throw. And outside of Dallas Goedert, who did they have? Johnny Wilson, Jahan Dotson. They didn't even have Britton Covey in that game. They elevated Paris Campbell and John Ross from the practice squad. Grant Calcaterra. My point here is that it's tough to look at a game like that and go, oh, you know what? Maybe they fixed a lot here, Greg. I look at it and say, this is a team that, all right, Bo Nix threw for 215 against them. Not a ton, right? Sure, but he ran 2 touchdowns in and was super efficient. They've struggled to limit the pass against guys good or not great who at least have 1 or 2 pass catchers. So yeah, I'm not afraid at all. And I know nobody listening to this is either. but I'm not afraid at all to go to this game from a heavy Atlanta pass catcher side. They gave up 324 to Detroit. And again, Washington, Jaden Daniels' first game, Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts with nobody to throw to. Plus, he just doesn't look good. And Tampa's allowing huge receiving production to running backs as well. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that they blitz at the highest rate in football.
Yeah, and I mean, related to these not being the best defenses, this is, I think, the least exposure I've had to defenses on any showdown slate this year. And then also related to the quarterbacks being cheaper. Usually, when we're on these shows, you and I were singing the praises of kickers and telling people at the end, don't forget to roster the kickers. I'm not getting to a ton of kicker exposure relative to other slates either. It's one of the benefits of the quarterbacks being cheaper. We're just kind of easy to fit quarterbacks into lineups, as well as some of the value at the skill position spot. So kickers and defense is not as important to me as contrarian options they are on other slates.
Yeah, no. And I would say right now, Atlanta's defense is better, though. I think Atlanta's defense is actually pretty good, particularly this secondary. They don't give up big plays. They give up no second fewest yards after catch on the season. Only 4 plays of 20 plus yards allowed. They're pretty good there, which makes you wonder, like, is this another Godwin game, or does Mike Evans just go full out Hulk mode like he does once in a while, and it doesn't really matter who he's facing?
Yeah, and I think something that's going to factor into that is McMillan being out, where
And Palmer.
yeah, so like I don't know that there is some exposure I like to cheaper wideouts from the Buccaneers, but I think the most likely scenario is just Godwin and Mike Evans absorb a little bit of extra target share, which is already significant for them. So to your question, is this going to be another Godwin or Evans game? I think yes, probably for both of them. But I do like Godwin a little bit more overall between the two of them. I do land on more exposure to him.
Me too. And from a PPR standpoint, if this does end up being a lower scoring game, Thursdays traditionally lower scoring games, Godwin tends to be the guy that would benefit most from that, just given his role in this offense. So I'm getting a bet in here. I get alerts to my phone from our EV tool from Portfolio EV. So
is there a betting emergency? Which line is popping up right now?
actually, it's a Dylan C strikeout prop, but FanDuel's only allowing $40 on it.
All right, got to get it down right now.
Your limits are tighter than mine on FanDuel, dude. They'd probably be giving you 20 right now.
Yeah, I mean, we were figuring out the other day because the number was what 22% for you, and it's 10% for me. So yeah, I'd be like a little bit less than half. So yeah, it'd be like 19, I guess, or 18.
Goody had a super chat. What's up, brother? Appreciate you as always. I was going to have a hot take and change my DK avatar for the first time ever because I'm going to win today, but DK is not accepting my stochastic avatar. Brother, how have you not done it yet? That's all right. Goody has super chatted us more than enough to justify. But really, I mean, put yourself in a spot to win more stuff. It's weird to not accept. Try it on the. I think if you do it on desktop or the app, I was seeing somewhere that like someone had trouble with it, and then they did it on desktop or the app, and it worked. So I don't know.
I don't know. It's like I've seen that people message me and they say like, "Hey, I haven't been able to change my avatar." I've never had that issue, so I don't know. Maybe try messaging support. Maybe they could help, but it's something I've personally not had an issue with.
Obi-Wan's the man. He said, plug away, Laffy. Hey, look, stochastic.com/HOF. I don't need to plug anything. I mean, if you're not rocking the avatar, I don't know what to tell you. You're winning $200 value sim subscription for your first win. For your second win, you get it again, another $200 plus a week of any other sport. So during basketball season, that comes in handy. And then a third time win, get gold tier, you're getting $550 value. What do I need to plug, Greg? Sells itself. All you do is use the avatar, download it, upload it wherever it is you play, and finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Tweet us your wins at Stochastic HOF. And if you're lucky enough or good enough to get a $20,000 win, guess what? You got that beautiful Stochastic engraved Hall of Fame ring with your name on it. See the Stochastic, it's above that. And then under says Hall of Fame. You got all that down there on the plate, spinning display case. What more can I say? Anyway, couple other spots to talk about. Michael Henry asked the most duped lineup on FanDuel, please and thank you. We can run FanDuel for sure.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up because I've got lineups that are built for both, but there's a few lineups that look like they're going to be super heavily duped over on FanDuel. The one that's showing up as duped the most, it's Kirk Cousins in the MVP spot with Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Chris Godwin, and Darnell Mooney. But other ones that are also comparably duped, Bijan Robinson in the MVP spot with Drake London, Kirk Cousins, Chris Godwin, and Darnell Mooney. And then there's another one here, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kirk Cousins, Chris Godwin, Ray McLeod instead of Darnell Mooney. And then there was one other one, which is actually that same lineup as the two ones above, but with Drake London in the MVP spots.
Okay. Look at you, already got it up. Good stuff. Goody, listen, if you're trying and it doesn't work and you win tonight, I will honor it. I'll honor it. If you win tonight and it doesn't go through, I will still honor it, brother.
I'm curious what the hot take is now. He said he was going to have a hot take and change his avatar, but now does this mean the hot take doesn't exist anymore?
I think the hot take was to change his avatar.
So his hot take is that he's going to come in first.
Yeah, exactly. Like the hot take is that he's going to win. Yes, exactly. Precisely. Bucky Irvin. Let's get into this. Let's get into this Bucs backfield. And if you guys have questions, because on this show, we kind of just, the strategy show, it's a little bit more structured. On this, we're just trying to hit on everything that we can. Triple G's, by the way, you have to download it, add it to DK, then sign out of DK. Then when you sign back in, it'll be there. All right, easy enough. And he has his, my man. Yeah, so what I want to talk about here, and as I said, we'll move around, but we'll always, kind of come back to what we need to get to. But since it's so close to lock, we want to give you guys everything we can and talk kind of roster construction here as well. Here's the thing that about Bucky Irving that's like stuck in my head. So I'm going through the red zone data from last week, and I'm looking at this. I'm like, all right. So first of all, I'm looking at snap count. I'm like, all right. So fewest for this on the season so far for White, more for Bucky Irving, but it's still not a 50-50 split. Greg, then I look at routes run and I go, oh, wow. Okay. So Bucky Irving running far fewer routes every week than Rachaad White, but this week, 24-18, the gap is closing. And then I look at red zone and goal line opportunities. Through the first 3 weeks of the season, Rachaad White had every opportunity inside the red zone, every opportunity at the goal line. In week 4 against the Eagles, he had 1 in the red zone, not at the goal line. Bucky Irving had 5 red zone carries and 3 goal line carries. So, I mean, you may be seeing a pretty dynamic shift here among who gets those opportunities at the goal line. And that matters, especially if Bucky Irving's running 18, 20 routes a game too.
So my opinion on that, though, is that was influenced by the score of the game, at least a little bit, to where
he's better than White, though.
Yeah, I think he's better than White, but still, I think that one of the reasons that he's played better than White so far this year, certainly as a runner, because he got Bucky Irving averaging nearly 6 yards per carry compared to 2.8 yards per carry for Rachaad White. But I do think that there's a part of it, at least, that the Buccaneers had a pretty substantial lead over the Eagles for the entire game. They just wanted to give Bucky Irving a little bit more opportunities due to that. What I think is going to happen going forward is I think it's going to be pretty close to a 50-50 split. And then if something happens,
hold on. I agree with you on the 50-50 split, but that's still a far cry from what we saw over the first few weeks. That's what I'm saying.
For sure. It's relevant to what I'm about to say, though, in terms of with me thinking it's going to be close to a 50-50 split and the quarterbacks are underpriced and the top end pass catchers are also reasonably priced. I way prefer the passing games than trying to get the right side of the Tampa Bay backfield. So I have exposure to Rachaad White and to Bucky Irving, but I'd rather be going to Chris Godwin. I'd rather be going to Drake London. I'd rather be going to Mike Evans and then some cheap guys that I like as well for the slate that I think could potentially benefit from the Buccaneers with guys like a McMillan and Palmer being out. So with me just saying that I think it's going to be a split in the backfield, I think anything goes with the two of those guys. I'd rather roster pass catchers.
Okay. I see it a little different. I don't see it as much of like they had a big lead and they just kind of gave some to Bucky. Well, I don't see that as much because White, I think, was actually getting a lot of opportunities early in that game as well. Also, do you know how many times Baker Mayfield threw in that game? Take a guess. Don't look.
I don't remember.
Good. That's why I want you to guess.
I'll just say 25. 47.
47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47. 47
Oh wow. Even in a win that
That's
was
what I'm saying, right? Like they kept their foot on the gas. So I don't know, man. But I think we're on the same page that the 50-50 split does make a lot of sense, but the 50-50 split is a lot different than what you would have said in week 2 or even week 3. So it's a tough spot. Atlanta has a good defense. I do lean because people are going to ask this question, right? So you're saying your answer is like you'd rather kind of go less towards the backfield and more towards the pass catchers. I get that. I would lean Irving, and here's the problem: like Rashad White could just have a 40-yard touchdown, receiving touchdown because he is a good pass catcher. Deeg said he's been White. Irving's been better, but we can't say that he is better than White. I think I can pretty confident, and I've always been down on White as a rusher. I feel pretty okay saying that Bucky Irving's a better running back, a rusher
yeah.
than White, not a better pass catcher. White's an athletic guy. He's a great pass catcher. But
one thing I'm going to say to back that up, this is now his 3rd season in the NFL, Rashad White.
Yeah,
These are such poor rushing numbers that he's not good at it.
Right,
His first year in the league, he averaged 3.7 yards per carry. Last year, he averaged 3.6 yards per carry. This year, he's averaging 2.8 yards per carry. I mean, you look at those numbers, there's nowhere to go other than being a better rusher of the football than Rashad White.
Exactly. But he's a good pass catcher, for sure.
Yes.
Atlanta doesn't have a great pass rush. I still think White gets his opportunities, but I would lean Bucky Irving here. I would lean Irving. And that's only because if you could talk about the blowout last week, but still the fact that Irving got all of the red zone opportunities in the game, I think it's pretty telling. Does it change? Is it a hot hand approach? Possibly. Definitely possible. But I'm not convinced. And then on the other side with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, you saw a shift in that last week a little bit as well. You had Raheem Morris saying that it was a hot hand approach. I understand all of that. Look, I'll take my lumps here if I'm wrong. I still like Bijan today quite a bit. And, you could say that he has the hamstring injury. People have been mentioning that to me a lot. If that's your angle on this, by all means, like jam Algier if that's your angle, because I'll take angles as well. And I'll boost guys thinking that, I have a read on something. And if you do, it's going to pay off. But the fact that Robinson got a full practice in yesterday, not a limited practice, full practice, and then hasn't been on the injury report at all since yesterday, those things just worry me less than a guy that was limited and then is a game time decision and is going to test his hammy out during warmups. You know what I mean?
It's also a high leverage game. I mean, this is, Bucs, Falcons, divisional rivalry game. Falcons are 2-2. Buccaneers are 3-1. They're first in the division. I think this is a game where the teams are going to want to lean on their studs a little bit more than if it was, like Falcons, Jets or something like that, because this is a game that carries a little bit more stakes. So I do think that we see Bijan Robinson take back some of the work that he lost to Algier.
I do too. I also don't hate Tyler Algier either because Algier's actually pretty decent. I don't think it's crazy to have Bijan and Algier in the same lineup today, honestly. Tampa's allowed. You could feel free to push back on that. I'm more than open to listening to it. But Tampa has really been beat up by opposing running backs in the passing game this year. Like I said, I think the fact that they blitz as heavily as they do, Kirk Cousins can't run, so he's either just going to get fucked up in the backfield, or you're going to see him be able to get the ball out quick. Who do you get the ball out quick to in spots like this? Pitts isn't reliable there. Maybe Ray McLeod. Mooney's more so a guy that you're looking towards downfield more than you are on in the intermediate game or the short game. And so far this season, you've seen the Tampa Bay Bucs allow 243 receiving yards to opposing running backs. It's a big number. That's a big number. So if Bijan's healthy, I'm hoping we get over that number today.
Yeah. For your question, who are they going to run some of those short routes to? It's been Ray McLeod. And
Right.
We've seen it now, big target games a couple of times from there's going to be no depth of target for them. It's all like quick design screen passes, but it's great for PPR. So Ray McLeod, at least for DraftKings purposes, like he's viable on FanDuel, but he looks much better on DK with the PPR. We've now seen him get 5+ targets in 3 of the first 4 games of the year. Last week, he had 6 catches on 7 targets for 52 yards. So at his price point, if you're going to be getting 5, 6, 7 targets, it's pretty solid.
It's very solid. And I would say that he's mispriced on DraftKings.
I agree. I
You know,
believe, he's the sub 4K player I have the most exposure to,
of
and by a
course,
pretty wide margin.
of course. Usually these guys, mind you, he has a near 20% target share. How often do you see a guy with a 19.5% target share at $3,400?
You don't. I mean, the closest one was last week. We had Wan'Dale Robinson, but he was what, $4,400 or $4,600. But yeah, not quite this cheap usually.
Yeah, not at all. Where are you at on Algier?
Yeah. So where I'm at on Algier, it's kind of similar to what I had said about the Buccaneers running back situation before, which is it's somewhat of a timeshare, but this one isn't as much of a timeshare as the Tampa Bay spot. And then also it's not like you're getting Algier at like 2K or $1,600 like we see for backup running backs. You're getting Tyler Algier at $4,800. And there are just other players I like for cheaper than Algier that I'd rather be rostering, like Ray McLeod. We just talked about him. Cade Otton is 4K. He's somebody that stands out. So if you want to punt, Sterling Shepard's only $1,600. He's somebody who I expect to be on the field a little bit more, considering how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wideouts are a little bit banged up. So Tyler Algier, he's not like a fade for me or anything, but he's just somebody who, if he's in a couple of lineups, that's cool. If I would have run the Sims and he would have shown up in like 25 or 30% of lineups, I would have done a negative ROI boost to roll it back a little bit. He's in a handful of lineups for me, and he's not a priority.
I have him in 16% right now.
So about even with the field.
Yeah. I'm getting to some Sterling Shepard captain though.
Same.
And I don't actually hate it. I don't hate it because Cade Otton's been a guy that's been all over the map, right? His first 2 games of the season, he had an 8% target share. And his last 2 games, he's been, north of 20%. You don't know what you're getting from Cade Otton week over week. You have Godwin and you have Mike Evans. You have no McMillan, you have no Palmer. Sterling Shepard, and yes, you have Cameron Johnson at minimum salary, and we can talk about that as well, because he did get some opportunities last week. But Sterling Shepard is the clear wide receiver 3 in this offense right now. We saw it last week. He was productive. I believe it was Matt Butler on Twitter mentioning how they played together in college and already have a rapport. But he's cheap to the point where, again, it's another mispricing, Greg. I'm not acting like Sterling Shepard is a guy that you expect to get 10 targets a game. Obviously not. But at 1,600, usually at 1,600, you're talking about the guy that plays 25% of snaps and you're happy if he gets 2 targets. In this case, it's a guy that's probably going to play 75% of snaps or more today.
Yeah, so I saw somebody in chat asking who's out. So from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, both McMillan and Palmer are going to be sitting out today. And then you just have to figure that there's going to be somebody cheap that's running extra routes for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's where I think Sterling Shepard slots in. We've got him projected for like 0.5% ownership in the captain spot over on DraftKings, Lofty. He's my favorite contrarian captain play because you plug him into the captain, you could play really whoever else you want in that lineup, and nobody right now is expected to be playing Shepard in that multiplier spot. So for contrarian GPP lineups, he's my favorite, like just off the board captain option.
Yeah, it's a good spot. You might not love it, but it's a decent spot. What about Cameron Johnson?
Let's see. Do I have Cameron? I'm not getting to him at all.
Okay. I'm not surprised by that, but I got to ask you. We've seen these rogue games before from these wide receivers in Tampa Bay too. But yeah, I don't have much at all. I'm not surprised by it personally. It's not shocking, but I think a lot of that is just because of Sterling Shepard. Like, well, you know what it is? You know what it comes down to? do you really need to go that cheap today? There's actual value on a showdown slate, and we don't often get that. Today, you got a $3,400 Ray McLeod. You've got a $1,600 Sterling Shepard as the wide receiver 3 for this team. You have several other guys that are just, affordable to the point where you don't really need to go all the way down. You could see Cameron Johnson being you could see him project for 1.7 fantasy points or whatever we have and be a super valuable and this necessary option in a lot of showdown slates. This just kind of isn't the one.
If I had to roster somebody who's sub $1,000 and you're just punting with somebody who's like the bare min, then you can make a case for him. Maybe I'll do an ROI boost just so I get him like a couple of lineups, but not that I want to play like any significant amount of. If I had like 2, 3, 4% of them, like whatever, I would be okay with that. But it's really what you had said there, where like I feel much better about Sterling Shepard, who's also not popular. We got Shepard projected for 13% ownership, and I think that he's a much safer bet than Cameron Johnson. So yeah, if I absolutely needed the salary savings, need one of those sub 1K guys, he would be the guy, but he's not really necessary.
That's the thing. You don't need to get to him. Want to get to some super chats?
Let's do it.
Let's make it happen. By the way, are we over 200 likes? Let's just take a gander because we got 1,900 people watching. Can we trust the people? Let me 278. All right. Appreciate you guys. 500 might be a long shot here, but we try, Greg. We try.
We do our best.
We do our best. There's some people out there that just forgot. I understand it. I respect it. We're busy people. But in the event that you're one of them, take a single second, a tone. All right, let's get to some super chats here. And appreciate all you guys. Jeff Williams, Ray and Orton, or Pitts and Shepard. Otten, not Orton. It's probably an autocorrect, but I'm just letting Greg know.
I was trying to figure out like it's like, did you see the Gronk prank that Fox tweeted out the other day where they pretended there was some tight end that was coming back for the Cowboys who didn't actually exist, and they asked Gronk for his opinion on it? For a second, I was like, who the hell is Orton?
Well, yeah,
like,
the only Orton I know.
Kyle Orton is
Kyle Orton. That's the Kyle Orton, the only other one. Yep.
That's pretty easily Ray McLeod and Kate Otten for me.
Ray and Otten, or Pitts and Shepard. Yeah. Actually, I don't know. Is it that easy?
Just based on what my exposures are.
Yeah.
Pitts
is going to bury me today.
I have more exposure of those 4 players that he listed there. The ones I have the 2 most exposure to are Ray McLeod and Kate Otten.
Okay. Pitts is going to end up burying me. I know it. It's going to be a Pitts game. Just watch. Just watch. It's going to suck. Matt went on a wild diatribe. Actually, I shouldn't say diatribe because that kind of gives it a negative connotation. It was awesome of just like why he's out on Kyle Pitts today. It had to have gone on for 5 minutes, Greg. Just I let him go. I didn't say a word. I sat back and let it go.
Have you seen some of the highlight videos where it seems almost like Kyle Pitts, instead of trying to create separation, just runs into whoever it is that's defending him on all his routes?
It's bad. It's bad. Goody, again, thanks, brother. 15% Ray and 10% Sterling at captain in top 20 ROI for DK. Seems gross. What do you say? I truly have no problem with it.
I don't have quite that much Ray McLeod, but that's the same amount of Sterling Shepard I have at captain.
I have 18% Shepard at captain right now.
Yeah, I've got right around 10% of both McLeod and Shepard. So it's not like that big of a difference. I'm a little bit lighter on McLeod in the captain spot than you, but yeah, same amount of Sterling Shepard. I don't have an issue with it though.
I actually just, I reran. I'm getting 7% Shepard at captain now. I just reran. So definitely less than before, but yeah, it's still not bad. My 3 most exposed captains right now, Greg. And this is 20+% for all of them. Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Chris Godwin. Those are my 3 highest exposed captains right now. I may run one more. This may be it. I'm not sure what else I'm going to adjust. I made a slight upward adjustment to Bucky, but that's it.
Those are the same three I have the most exposure to, but I'm pretty flat at captain for this slate relative to other slates. I don't have more than 20% of anybody.
Me neither. Me neither. All right. Looking at this now, I have a ton of Bijan Robinson. If Bijan Robinson has a bad game, my day is very likely coming to an abrupt end. I can tell you that much. I have way more Ray McLeod at flex. Way more. I only have 5 at captain. But again, I don't think it's crazy, Goody, that you get overweight on some of those guys at captain. I don't think that's nuts. Falth 07. Hey fellas, I just started playing Showdown slates this season. I was just curious what your thoughts were on playing a running back from each team. Yeah, I don't even think about it, honestly.
So I see a lot of times people look at Showdown slates and they'll say, oh, like more often than not, lineups with running backs win. Therefore, I have to roster running back. Oftentimes, there's a wide receiver who's between 4 and 5K who's in the winning lineup. Therefore, I have to do that. But every slate is different. So looking at some of those trends, it's not going to really do you a whole lot of good. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason you want to play a running back from each team, but every slate is different. There's going to be some slates where it's like, oh, yeah, the running backs are the 2 best overall options in the game. Or maybe you get a slate like week 1 and you get a Christian McCaffrey's out and Jordan Mason is starting at 3K. I think that was his price point for Showdown on that slate. Then he's just going to be in like all of your lineups, and you're naturally going to get to more lineups that have running backs from both games. For this particular game, I don't have as much exposure to the running backs on both sides as I do to the pass catchers. Robinson being the player who I have the most of overall at the running back spot. Like, I don't think you need to have Bijan Robinson and then one of the Tampa Bay running backs, but it's not a problem if you have it either. It's for me, though, on this slate for Tampa Bay, I don't love getting to White or Bucky Irving. I'd rather play Chris Godwin. I'd rather play Mike Evans or like Cade Otton.
Totally understand that. But if the question is, do you mind playing a running back from each team? No, it doesn't really come to mind for me at all. It's one game. So yeah. All right. Official Chris Presto channel. Hi, Loughran and Greg. What's up, man? I really think Mike Evans will go off tonight. Just wanted to say good luck tonight and let's get this money. Hell yeah, man. Look, Mike Evans can go off any night. Here's what I will tell you, Greg. If there is one guy that I am underweight to currently that scares me to be underweight on, and this is currently looking at my exposure, it is hands down Mike Evans.
I'm not like so far under. I'm about even with the field on Mike Evans. I don't think I have captain exposure to him though. A little bit underweight, but I've got 7% of him there. Like, if it's a big Mike Evans game, it's not going to kill me. My preference, though, would be a big Chris Godwin game. Godwin would be much more beneficial to me having a big game than Mike Evans. I've got more exposure to Drake London. I've got more exposure to Chris Godwin than I do to Mike Evans. So there's other pay up options I prefer. For me, the one, if he has a big game, would be the worst case scenario for me would be Bucky Irving, because I also think Bucky Irving could end up being more popular than what his ownership projection is, just because I'm constantly seeing him mentioned on Twitter today as somebody who people want to play. So I think Bucky Irving's the one who, if he had a big game, would probably ruin me the most.
Probably. Not for me. I have more than you do. I can say that much. I have more Bucky Irving than you do.
Yeah, I've got 10% of him.
Yeah, I have about 30%. All flex, no captain, by the way. Everything is in the flex, nothing in the captain spot. Any other questions here? Let's see. Weatherman
7. It's not a question, but it is what I have learned now is a sticker. And as per usual, he sent us a sexy pair, and it says, "How's it going?" And then he is leaning down. It should be noted that it is his arm that is sticking up, and he's waving to us. That is not anything else. That is an arm that is sticking up there. So Weatherman 7, thank you for the pair, and how's it going to you as well?
Nathan Perkins, 10% Shepherd too low when playing 10 lineups. I mean, no. No. But if you asked if 30% Shepherd was too high, I'd give you the same answer. Does that make sense, Greg? Like, I don't have I'm not dying on the Sterling Shepard hill today. I'm also not concerned if I get a decent amount of him either.
I like him quite a bit as a contrarian option. If somebody was asking me that they wanted to play one contrarian player and they wanted to know who that guy should be at low ownership, I would say Sterling Shepard. He's my favorite contrarian play. So for me personally, I like being well overweight to Shepard.
Me too, and I am. I just don't see it as I don't see it as like your night is over.
No,
If you
no,
don't,
no,
you
no.
know.
If I was only playing 10 lineups, though, I would have Shepard in 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No problem with that. But would I be shocked if Sterling Shepard wasn't optimal today? No, of course not. All right. Devon Maya. Laffy, I forgot my like because Fort Liquordale. All good, brother. I'm right here with you. Not the liquor, but not I can't be doing liquor on the shows. What's Evans captain ownership right now? What do we have Evans captain ownership at right
Yeah, so we've got him projected for right around 10% ownership in the captain spot, and I'm a little bit underweight that. I've got 7% of him there.
now? Okay. 7%, you said?
Yeah.
You have 7% Evans captain?
Yes. So a little bit less than the field.
Interesting. Okay. I only have 2% Evans at captain. How much do you have at flex? I'm not getting a ton of Mike Evans today.
27%, and he's projected for right around 30%. So, like I was saying before, I'm a little bit underweight to the field on Mike Evans, but not so much so that it would be like catastrophic for me if Mike Evans had a big game. I would just prefer it to be Godwin.
At the time, it'd be pretty catastrophic. I might need the ROI boost Mike Evans. I think I'm going to just even just a little bit. I have 7% at the flex right now, Greg. That's concerning.
That's low.
Like, let's see. If I were to boost him 15%, what do I get?
Probably around 20%.
There we go. 20% flex. It's actually
Did I hit it on the head?
You nailed it. 20.9%. Nice work, dude. That's kind of perfect. Actually, I'm fully on board with that. All right. Are there any other guys that would worry you if you didn't have a lot of them? Because as I see it right now, my captains, Bijan, Drake, Godwin are my 3 highest, and then I just have like a spattering of Cousins, Otten, McLeod, Shepard, Mayfield, Bucky. I have 2% Bucky, 2% Mike Evans, a captain. But Bijan, Drake, and Godwin are making up like 70% of my captain exposure today.
Like there isn't somebody who, it's always hard to say for like a 1-game slate or somebody that you have to have. But the players that I
not have to have, but guys that you go, I'm submitting my lineups right now, and that scares me a little bit.
If you don't have a lot of exposure to Baker Mayfield, I would say that that's probably an issue. I don't have a ton of him in the captain spot for the reasons I had mentioned before, but in the flex spot, I mean, I've got overall more than 70% of Baker Mayfield there. He's my most rostered flex by a mile. He's the one guy I would say that if you don't have a healthy amount of him, then that's something that I would want to change.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. What about, but also, like you were saying, if Bucky Irving were to go off, or actually, what about if White were to go off too? Is it either of those guys that would probably be the most detrimental to you today?
Bucky Irving more so, just because I think he's going to end up being more popular than expected. But yeah, my preference is going to be the quarterbacks in the passing game to get it done today, and not as much the running backs. I have more exposure to Rachaad White than Bucky Irving, but that's just because of his receiving upside.
How much kicker and defense exposure are you getting to?
Hardly any, which is not typically the case for me.
It is so atypical, but also I'll go back to the exact same thing I was talking about earlier. Usually you don't have this type of value. Right. Usually you just don't have this value where it's like a $4,500 kicker is really valuable. But today I mean, I have 12% combined Chase McLaughlin and Younghoe Koo. 12% combined.
I have let's see. I have 8% combined.
Really?
And then
What
of the
about I have
15% of the defense is combined.
okay, I have about 25% combined, but still, that's not usually on these showdown sites, you're getting a lot more than that.
Also, kickers a little bit more expensive for this, which I think they should be doing. Kickers are just always underpriced. It's one of the reasons they always pop up. So it's multiple things. We've got cheap value to roster. The pay up options aren't all that expensive, and the kickers are more expensive than normal. I mean, we've got McLaughlin is $5K, and then Younghoe Koo at $5,400. So yeah, just other spots that I'm prioritizing.
Yeah, me too. Also, some of my lineups look chalky. And a lot of times I look at these lineups and I submit them and I go, oh God, like that's either winning everything or it's coming in dead last, you know, which is kind of the way you want it for a lot of these large field tournaments. But some of the, like, I want to pull up my dupes right now. And Jordan, if you could do that too, go into the Sims and pull up the dupes. Of course, guys, anytime you want to check out these tools, links in the description and in the chat. There's still 1,850 of you watching with us right now. The single lineup sim, the sims itself, the top stacks tool, the boom bust tool, ownership, player projections, the premium discords included and everything. Now, when you go ahead and you click that, you're getting, you can see every single subscription, every single package. It's all right there. Even if you're not ready to do it, but you wanted to check them out, the best tools out there for sure. And it's going to make your lineup building, whether you're doing it by hand and using the sims that way, or you're just running the sims the way Greg and I are today. It's going to make your process and your lineups a whole lot better. And now you can get in at a million different ways. One other thing, and then we're going to look at this and take these super chats. And I would suggest sticking around because there's still a few things we got to talk about. Bet365 right now. Get $200 in bonus bets when you sign up and bet $5. I already threw it in tails in the Discord. Greg, every single Thursday, they have a promo where if you bet $50 cumulative in a same game parlay, and it only has to be even money odds, plus 100, you get $10 in bonus bets per every touchdown scored. And I looked at all the rules. I couldn't find anything on limits like they have on FanDuel for Dinger Tuesday where it's 5. I couldn't find any max amount of touchdown scored bonus bets. So I think theoretically you could get like 10 touchdowns and that's $100 in bonus bets. So not only are you getting 200 in bonus bets on a $5 bet, even if you bet the first drive to end in a field goal, if that drive ends, those bonus bets right after the drive's over, those bonus bets are in your account. Links in the description and in chat. It only takes a minute to sign up too. And by the way, if you're saying it's too late, guess what? You can bet it in game and still take advantage of that promo, of that same game parlay promo. So you can do a live same game parlay promo. Deposit 10, bet 5, get 200 in bonus bets, and $10 per every touchdown scored in this game. They're doing it big, man. They really are. And it's good to see. So if that link, it takes you a minute to get verified, you'll be in and there. If your lineups are already set, take the next 10 minutes, make that your priority. If you're in any of those states, got to be 21 years old or to gamble. You have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But I wanted to ask you about dupes. And what do you see?
So I was going to tie. I don't know if you saw it, but Jeff Williams left us a super chat about a TD parlay. He said that he already has. He said he bet $1,000 on Mike Evans for an anytime touchdown.
Ooh, all right, Jeff.
One. So yeah, one thing also, I'm kind of surprised the total for this game is only 43.5. But wanted to make sure we answered Jeff's question. Maybe we tied it. I don't know if Jeff's playing over at Bet365, but he's got Mike Evans. He wants to know touchdown parlay. Let's see. So if I was going to take somebody else who wasn't Mike Evans, I mean, the safest pick is going to be Bijan Robinson. And also, if you're going to be playing Mike Evans, just for correlation purposes, you probably want somebody from the Atlanta side. I would say that also, I don't know what book you're playing at, so I have no clue what odds are. But the one who's most likely to score a touchdown from the Atlanta side is Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, it's Bijan or Mike Evans or Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving's got shorter odds than Rashad White today. So get this, man. I had a feeling I was on to something here because I just wasn't sure. I just sorted by my but top simulated ROI in the Sims tool, right? How about this? My top simmed ROI, my best lineup, and this is factoring in everything: projection, ownership, leverage, right? Not just project. It's not just like a mindless optimizer. This is why the Sims are valuable as they are. 23 dupes. Third best, 13 dupes. You go down, ninth best, 16, 11, 13, 12, 14. So it actually appears today that the Sims are spitting out lineups that are a little chalkier than usual. You don't see that all that often.
No, well, almost all. I have to go back and look. So of my top sim ROI lineups, almost all of them have Sterling Shepard in the captain spot. I think my top 8 lineups are all Sterling Shepard captain.
Okay, so that's a little different than mine. So then yours probably don't have many dupes because mine do at the top.
No, and also I've got a lot of my Shepard captain lineups are leaving like $2,000+ in salary on the table.
Another thing I should point out is for this last run on the Sims that I did, it was 10% to first. That's probably making a big difference in our results.
Yeah, that's true as well. If you're doing the 10% to first, it's not going to give you quite as many contrarian lineups towards the top. But yeah, I feel pretty good. Like if you were to play and set it on like 30% sim ROI with our data, you're probably going to get Sterling Shepard lineups with him in the captain and leave salary on the table at the top of your sim ROIs.
Also, Jeff, I love touchdown parlays and touchdown round robins. I don't generally do them on Showdown on a single game like Thursdays and stuff though. I'd much rather have a full slate of games to do that, you know. Instead of me trying to figure out like if there's 3 touchdowns, who's going to score the 3 touchdowns from the same game. I would rather look at that the other way. Let's see. See if we had any other questions in here.
Just because people were asking about FanDuel, my FanDuel exposures are very similar to my DraftKings exposures today. Like I've got the same exposures to the same top MVP options that I do to captains over on DK. So if I look at my captain exposure for FanDuel, the 3 guys I get the most exposure to, it's Bijan Robinson, it's Chris Godwin, it's Drake London. I do think that Cousins and Mayfield are a little bit more viable there just because there isn't the half-point PPR bonus, but still, it's the same 3 priorities. And then the other thing that's a little bit different is Sterling Shepard isn't as strong of a contrarian play to me over on FanDuel, even though there's like no ownership going to him. He's 7K there, which is just relatively just not the same salary savings that you're getting on DraftKings.
Yeah, absolutely. Malcolm, what's up, dude? Thank you for the super chat. How much should I leave on the table? It's not like Greg just said, it depends what you're playing. For me, on this last Sims run, when I ran it for my 10% the first contest, I'm getting 49,000 plus on everything. But you're probably running it for what, 30% to first on that one you're talking about? That's going to be a lot of money left on the table in a lot of these lineups. You're just going to get a lot of different lineups. It really depends on what you're playing.
And I know Malcolm Revamp plays a lot of FanDuel, if I'm not mistaken. I shouldn't say I know because I'm also kind of hedging it by saying if I'm not wrong. But Malcolm, if you're talking about for FanDuel, especially if you're going to be building lineups where it's like the guys that I was talking about before, like Bijan Robinson in the MVP spot, I do find it very difficult to build lineups with the popular MVPs on FanDuel, use all of the salary and not have a dupe lineup. My highest projected lineups on FanDuel are all leaving $1,000 to $2,000 in salary on the table. So that's where I think is probably like your optimal, just based on what I'm seeing for my Sims runs.
That's a lot. Yeah. It's also, we're seeing in the Sims too, how different it is from percentage to first. Different, like 10% to, like if you're playing the first down, or if you're playing like the bubble screen, some of the $50 single entry, which is also 10% to first, those type of contests. What a different build you're getting in some of these. It's shockingly different. But also, if you were to win tonight, you're probably not duped with that many people. I think there's going to be an insane amount of dupes on a slate like this, where there's obvious value and there's obvious top tier plays.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same as, I mean, like, I like this slate a lot more than, now I know that the highest score for Sunday did actually end up being Derrick Henry. It wasn't Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, but I like when the slates are more spread out at captain or the MVP on FanDuel and aren't the more obvious options, because then there's a ton of dupes on those slates. And it's often hard to get away from some of those guys. But I mean, whatever. For the Sunday slate, there was no scenario where I was going to have a lot of lineups that had Lamar Jackson with both of his running backs in it. But yeah, these are the slates that I like.
Yeah. And also the guy that took first place had AJ Barner as well.
That is true. Well, that was for the Monday slate.
Oh, what were you talking about?
The Sunday slate where it was
yeah,
Showdown slate
Bills,
where
Ravens,
the optimal lineup had Lamar Jackson with Derrick Henry and Justice Hill all in it.
Yeah, yeah. And they both went. I think Justice Hill had 20 and Henry had like 39 or something.
Yeah, it was, and Lamar still had a big game somehow as well. Like, it was hard to envision a scenario where all three of those guys could go off together.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Time flies when you're having a good time. I mean, we are there. It's 8:15. Appreciate you as always. You guys are the best. And Greg and I'll be, guess what? Greg and I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. How about that, Greg?
Tomorrow morning, Sim Strategy Show. So yeah, tomorrow, Loughran and I are going to be doing that. If you guys are looking for MMA content for the big UFC card this weekend, I'll be recording my video for that right after we do the NFL Sim Show. So yeah, NFL content, MMA content, should be a good weekend.
I will say, if there's one show for NFL you should watch each week, it's our Sims breakdown on Friday.
Agreed.
Yeah, because you're actually seeing what type of lineups are grading out well, and what we can kind of go, oh, you know what, that looked good on paper, it's not that great. So join us 10 a.m. every Friday for the Sims lineup. I mean, it's a tournament strategy show, and we use the Sims to guide us, right? So shout out to Jordan for producing this one as always. Follow Greg G Ehrenberg DFS. I'm at Lafayette_D. Charles Moran TD picks. We already did them. Greg already said Bijan because we had Mike Evans from Jeff Williams. I'll go old Bucky here. Give me the Buckmeister.
All right.
We'll see you back here for the next one, guys. Good luck tonight. Have a great night. Peace.